Okay, so it should be live right now. Let me just take this from you real quick. I'm going to go share this profile. No one will see it live until we actually share it.
Oh, okay.
So tell us about your life.
Can we stop this?
Well, it's live now.
It's live now.
I mean, no, there's no one watching right now, but people would start from the beginning. If they start from the beginning, they would see this.
Oh dear.
I'm trying to just find the page. Facebook changes so much that I don't know how to get to where I need to get to. Okay. It changes so much that I don't. All right. Well, we still have 0 people watching, which is fine. Here we go.
Is it on pause at the moment or no?
Nope. But there's no one. You can see right up.
Yes, but it's going to.
Oh, now there's one person.
Oh, okay.
We're just getting started.
All right. Yes. Just getting started here and learning how this works. I'm learning how it works. Emmett mostly knows.
Here we go. Okay. We're live. Okay.
I have a question, Emmett.
Yeah.
Listener, observer, sorry. Can that part over there be larger so that I can tell what somebody's saying? Like if there's a question that comes up that I can read it, or can you read it from where you are?
I can make it bigger on the screen. But the chat sidebar is stuck where it is. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But I think I successfully shared it to your main profile. Should be.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
So pretty soon we'll have some people joining, hopefully.
Hope so.
Yeah.
So I'm Randy Young, and I'm the director of Living Water Counseling, and I've been doing counseling for about 30 years. And distinctively Christian counseling, profoundly Christian and biblical counseling, using the Bible itself as well as principles that are found in Scripture to do the counseling work of helping people heal from wounds, reflect Christ better in all of their relationships. One of the things we had talking about today was the difference between personality psychology and character psychology. One of the common things that's going on when I was in my training, a lot of what we did had to do with personality style testing, Myers-Briggs, MMPI, Taylor Johnson tests. They're tests that compare people to golden retrievers or different kinds of animals or different colors that are supposed to represent the sort of person that God has made us to be. And personality is an important thing because it's what the God who knitted us together in our mother's wombs, it's who he made us to be, our personality. In our uniqueness. Character is taking that personality and shaping it through shaping our personality, each one unique, each one different, but conforming our personalities to the character of Christ, to a good and godly character. Does that make any sense?
Can you define character a little bit more? You define personality as the tests, the ways that people divide it there. Can you give us a definition of character?
Well, character is our qualities, the way we reflect God in justice and truth, holiness, righteousness. We are made in the image of God. all of us, all humans, are made in the image of God, unique, different from animals. We're made in the image of God to reflect Him, to demonstrate the kind of God that He is, the kind of God that it is that created the world, the universe, mankind. And we as mankind are supposed to rule over the earth, take dominion over the earth, over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and the land and the trees of the field. We're to take dominion over those things in the way that reflects the character of God. It's our morals. It's the way we conform to the Ten Commandments. It's the way that we conform to seeking justice and truth. Good character is character that speaks truth honestly, openly, doesn't use truth to crush and hurt people, but it speaks the truth in love. These are character qualities. Personality traits are in a very, what I like the illustration of a prism to reflect, to be an illustration of who we each are. Oftentimes, and I was teaching a Sunday school class yesterday, where we used, there was an illustration of a mirror and a boy standing in front of the mirror, and the mirror was sort of a little fuzzy and such, and the drawing of the boy was very sharp and clear. And the reflection of the boy is not the boy himself. It's a sort of a fuzzy reflection of him, but it's not the full boy. It's not three-dimensional. It's two-dimensional. And as we reflect God, a mirror is a useful illustration for how we reflect God. But God is infinite, eternal. He's things we are not. So we will never reflect Him completely. But in certain senses, that He is creative, He's truth, He is love, He's righteous, He's holy. And we are to be these things. These are attributes of His character. And we are to reflect those attributes. But that can't be done in just a mirror. In terms of the metaphor, I much prefer the metaphor of a prism, that the multifacets of God's character shine into each individual prism. No two crystals are the same. And so as no two crystals are the same, no two humans are the same. And it takes all the humans that there are and ever will be to even come close to reflecting the fullness of who God is and His character, and His personality. So did that answer your question?
Yes, it was more than just a dictionary definition, but just a few sentences. Can you summarize again? So personality would be the test portion.
Well, sort of test. Am I an introvert? Am I an extrovert?
Yeah. Okay.
Am I a thinker, or am I a perceiver? Am I a sensor or intuitive? Am I
sanguine or
yeah, but that's a different set.
Right.
So there are a variety of personality tests that break up personality into different traits, different facets of our personalities.
And character would be more, it almost sounds like it's more to do with morality, right? It has a good and bad component. A lot of what I heard you defining character as was in relation to, is it good or bad?
That's right. That's right. Is it good, pure, true, righteous character? Or do I have bad character? Do I steal? Do I spend my time lusting? Do I spend my time greedy, selfish, taking for myself? Do I love selflessly? Do I take my resources and use them to benefit? Yes, to take care of my family and myself, and to provide for myself, so I'm not dependent on others. But still work to have things left over, money, finances, things left over that I can use to benefit others. Am I selfish? Am I giving? One of those is better. One of them is worse.
But it is more than just behavior.
Yeah. the behavior is a way that the character is demonstrated in life.
Right.
Do I seek justice? God says to do justly, to do the right thing, the thing that considers the pros and cons of something, how it benefits somebody, or how it takes, or how it undermines somebody, and seek the benefit of the other person, to seek an accurate representation of the relationship between God and his people, to recognize if a behavior is a good behavior or a bad behavior, if it's a good thing or a bad thing. If it's a good thing, I want to promote it. That comes out of the character of the person. If I want to promote what's good, if I want to suppress or inhibit what is bad and wrong and evil, then that's a sign of good character. All of us have good and bad character. For the Christian, I think our bad character shows up when we're shocked, when something happens to us. If we think of ourselves as a victim and then I want to pay back. So a lot of times, biblically, the old man comes up, expresses bad character in the way that we behave. How are we doing?
Yeah.
Is that
So we've got some definitions. So how do we go about, I guess, discerning, or why is it important for us to know these things?
okay? So character is that thing that God is in the process working in each of us in all of our different facets. That's what he is shaping. He is building our character, as we've talked about in some of the other messages, that in James chapter 1, verse 2, it is through trials that God tests our faith and builds our faith, strengthens our faith. And it's as our faith in God is made more pure, more consistent with the God that we trust in, then our character is shaped. We develop patience, and patience produces character. We want what's right. We want to reflect him well. And but each person in a distinguishing character from personality, character is reflecting the ethical, moral attributes of God. Personality is the way we do it. Some of us are more introvert, some more extrovert.
Right.
Catherine, my daughter, your wife, she's an extrovert. What does that mean, Catherine? What is she like that demonstrates her extrovert nature?
She's social, and she pays attention to other people and what they're doing, what they're thinking, what they're feeling in some situations. And she's focused on just engaging with people, and that helps her have energy and feel excited, or I won't say important, because she doesn't get her importance from other people, but it gives her energy.
Well, and that's an expression of who she is inside, how she's made.
She's sending us a chat.
So Emmett, you are not so much of an extrovert.
Correct.
So what does that mean about you? What do you like go ahead, describe yourself a little bit.
So I'm friendly with people, and I don't mind people, but being around people too much drains my energy levels, and eventually at the end of the day I could end up getting really grouchy and short, because I've run out of energy for other people. And to recharge, I need to have some alone time or some quiet time by myself, just to do what I want and to not have to interact socially. And even if it is other work, if I'm taking a break from being around people and working, that
Mhm.
can recharge me sometimes because it's not a social interaction.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how I see it normally.
So that is personality. That's neither good or bad.
Right.
And all of us are somewhere on the range. There are people who are more extroverted than Catherine, and there are people who are more introverted than you.
Right.
And those are neither morally good nor bad. It's just the way you are. And the more ethical, moral, the more your character develops, the more your personality in the way that you are reflects the character of God more accurately in your introversion or in her
Right.
extroversion.
Right.
I happen on the introversion extroversion continuum. I happen to be slightly to the introverted side, but that sometimes leaves me confused. Do I want to go to the party? Yes, but I could give it, yes or no.
Right.
But if I'm alone too much, I can get lost in myself, and I don't have a sense of purpose or what I'm doing. So my work allows me to be a little introverted, but I really do have a significant amount that loves to engage and connect with people. And it doesn't drain me if I'm connecting with one or two or three people at a time. But if I'm around 10 or 20 or 30 people for an extended period of time, I'm ready to get into a smaller group.
Right.
Some people just have a great time being around a whole bunch of people, and that's wonderful. It's not good nor bad.
Right.
But in whatever area we are of our personality, we're not to get lost. And this is where the problem with personality type psychology goes, is people use their personality as an excuse to not do the right thing.
Right.
If a person, well, since we're talking just introversion, extroversion, if a person who is an introvert says, well, I'm an introvert, so I'm not going to go to church. I'm an introvert, so I'm not going to get involved in that activity, in that community group, or in that organization, that activity that several people are doing, just because I'm just not going to connect with people because I'm an introvert.
Or I'm not going to stand up for what I think is right because that would be rude, or because I'm an introvert.
Yeah. If there's something that I'm responsible to do, but I'm not going to do it, and I'm not doing it because I'm an introvert, then yeah. Or if I'm an extrovert and I have responsibility to sit down and do my private preparation, or do my work that's sitting and doing my taxes, or making up my calendar, or whatever it is that's my alone time task, and it's like, this is just so boring, there's nobody to talk to. I don't do what I'm responsible to do, and I use my personality styles to justify not doing what's right, or going ahead and doing something that's wrong, justifying doing a wrong thing. I'm going to go to the party and not fulfill my responsibilities for work, or with these people that hold me accountable. I'm going to go out and have a great time at the ballpark, or whatever, instead of doing what I need to do with one or two people I need to do it with.
Right.
I'm not going to do my private time with the Lord because I'm only going to do things with a bunch of people around me. Then I'm using the personality preference to undermine my character development. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other thoughts on that? Any ways that sort of shows up in your world?
Yeah, I think extroverted people can tend to be more pushy, and in some ways can be like aggressive or even arrogant. And those end up being character qualities and not personality traits. Well, it blurs the line, maybe.
Well, okay, that actually is where sanctification comes in. if the extrovert is big and audacious and all that stuff, that's wonderful if he's a motivational speaker and if that's what he or she is doing. Or if there's a banquet or an event going on, the extrovert's the one who ought to get up there and motivate and encourage people and so on. That's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with that. That's an excellent thing. But if that's used in a way that is making me the big deal,
Right.
then that's a character flaw. And so it's the use of the personality style, the way it's employed, that makes it either good or bad. It's not the personality style.
How do you know the difference?
Does it edify others? Is it fulfilling our responsibilities? Is it doing the things that are important? Let's take a different one. Let's see, I'm an IN. N is intuitive versus sensing. Okay, on the Myers-Briggs scale.
Yeah.
So I'm more on the intuitive side, which means I get a sense of things. I observe what's going on around me, and I'm about, if my recollection is correct, it's been a long time since I looked at this. I'm about 1/4 of the way across to the outside of the standard deviation of intuitive. So I'm more on the intuitive side I'm more heavily intuitive than I am more heavily introverted. So I observe what's going on around me and I get an internal intuition about it. It seems to me like this is what's going on. And that's a good thing for a counselor. By the way, my Myers-Briggs INFP, they said that one of the two things I should be, the two top things I should be, is an orchestra conductor or a counselor.
Nice.
And so I became a counselor because I'm tone deaf. But I can use my intuition versus sensing. And if I'm going, the sensor gets the experiences life through the physical senses. It's cold, it's hot, it's observable, it's more objective, and therefore, because I see or hear or feel these things, I make my decisions based on what I sense, and there are other aspects there.
It's not real if I can't see it or somehow visualize it or.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Okay. And so if I can't see it, if I can't get the comparison between this and that, yes, those are the kinds of things.
You have to outline the plan for me exactly, otherwise I won't understand it. Whereas what you're saying is that the intuitive person can just kind of guess what might happen, and they don't need a full plan because they can see, oh, this is likely and that's likely, and if everything goes well, we're going to go from A to B to C, and I don't need you to write out 1, 2, 3 and show me the plan.
Yes, that's right. And so, that being the case, I could get lost and say that the sensing person is just tone deaf. I'm tone deaf. They just don't get it until they have all the details. Well, you don't have to have all those details. There's something wrong with you if you need all those details before you can evaluate something in some way. So that would be a sinful thing on my part to put somebody else down or not consider the way they are in that area. They might come to their conclusions more slowly because they need all the data.
Right.
On the other hand, the data sort of formulates in my insides.
Right.
And I go, well, let's go this direction. And if it doesn't work out, we'll go back and fix it. Well, that isn't necessarily what you want to do if you're navigating down a narrow channel on a boat and it's got rocks on this side and and a sandbar on the other side. So different people are gifted in different ways, and that's part of how God made them to be. But if I say, as an intuitive, I don't need to pay any attention to what's actually out there, or that person says, no, if you don't have all the data, you just got to, you're just crazy for making a decision without having all the data. That person may never move forward because they get totally lost in needing all the data.
Right.
So the sanctification process is forming our personality according to godly character, according to the principles and truths that are there in Scripture that allow us to reflect God accurately, well, with the prisms. I'm going to go back to the prism piece. In personality, our personality is formed with different angles and densities of the crystals that make up each and every one of us, all of our different facets. And those facets are responsible to reflect the glory of God well through each of us. And so if I have 50 facets, let's just limit it to the 4 spectrum, where I am on the 4 spectrums of the Myers-Briggs, introvert, intuitive, feeling, perceptive. Those are my facets. And each of those is on in a sense, an infinitely divided scale between other INFPs. Okay. So no 2 of us are absolutely identical.
Okay, sure.
But there are a lot of people who are INFPs who are either counselors or I'm going to say it, good counselors, or maybe we're orchestra conductors, and some are better than others at those things, but they're to be honed and targeted in a way so that they're crisp and clean.
Well reflective.
Accurately reflecting those aspects of who God is. And I was questioning myself on the crisp and clean crisp. Pastels are in there. So I don't think of pastels as crisp. I think of watercolors and pastels as like, they're fuzzy. And that's part of their beauty. But reflecting God well with the personalities we have, rather than taking the way we're bent, the way we're inclined to be with our personality, and twisting it and perverting it so that it is about getting me what I want under my circumstance, the way I want it, how I want it. It's all selfish, wanting to be in charge, wanting to be God, which is a problem that we all have in one way or another. Going back to Genesis 3 and the curse, the fall and the curse, the fall, eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. By knowing good and evil, we sort of came to the place where, I know what's good and I know what's evil. I can now start shaping things the way I want. And that's where the character starts getting corrupted, shaping it for my own benefit rather than taking dominion over the earth, over the parts of the earth God's given me, for Him and for His glory.
Okay, so I have a question about that part of character. How can you tell? I'm trying to think of application. So as a person, how can I tell if someone's character is real, or if they're what can I look for to intuit or discern someone's character, whether they're actually have a good character or whether they're perhaps putting on a show or trying to create a persona or a character that's not true for their own selfish reasons.
That becomes clearer and clearer and clearer over time as we know the person more deeply. Sooner or later, who the person is inside is going to be exposed. We can also look at how some of the things that we can look at is how do they talk about other people? Do they recognize the image of God in other people? Do they recognize that that person's valuable even though they're not like me? Even if the other person that I'm if there's a third person over here, the way you and I might talk about this person, maybe this person has some real unbiblical attributes, really wrong things going on in their life. And they're committed to those really wrong things. I think about our culture and the unethical, ungodly things that are anti-God. Do I look at that person and I go, what a horrible creature that is? Do I dehumanize the person in my judgment and evaluation of their character flaws? Or do I have compassion on that person and care about the fact that they are made in the image of God, even though that image is quite twisted? Scripture talks about how when we judge others, we're taking the place of God. Right. We're judging God. We're judging the law. Because God's the one who created the law. He's the one who judges us. We don't get to judge that person as we can make judgments about their character, but we can't judge them as a human being. We can judge their behavior because it lines up or doesn't line up with God's, and their behavior, when it has to do with morals, ethics, judging others, condemning if they talk badly about other people behind their backs. How transparent and open and honest are they? These are some of the things that we can look at. How's that working?
Yeah. I think it's hard if you don't have a lot of time to spend with someone to get to know. You have to decide if you're going to let your kids hang out with them, or if you want to interact with them on a regular basis, or try to limit that interaction. And you don't always get a lot of opportunity to make those decisions.
So let me ask you, if you go to the movies and you meet somebody else at the movies who likes the Marvel movies, you like Marvel movies, and you go, oh, this person likes Marvel movies. My kids can hang out with that person. Right. You're not going to do that, are you? No. How are you going to know if you're going to let your kids hang out with them?
That's a good question. You need more opportunity to get to know them, of course.
Yeah, you get to know them.
Yeah.
And, being in churches and looking at things that have happened in churches. I was talking with the intern who's a pastor at our church earlier today, and we were talking about abuse of different kinds that happens in the church, and how do we try to help the church be able to discern, be able to do what's right in those circumstances. And people didn't used to think of that. Churches didn't guard themselves in those areas, and a lot of bad things have happened. So there are principles and there are things that you do to try that you can observe in people's lives. But there's some people who are really, really good cons, and they can look really, really good. But it's the consistency throughout their life. Do they find ways to be secretive? Do they create ways of being isolated for large chunks of time where they can maybe get away with doing things they're not supposed to? You need to kind of study a little bit. What are the behaviors of of people who want to hurt people. There is a task of the MMPI, Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, which is like 500 and some questions. It's a horrible test to take because it's just like, and the questions are questions that you can't really, they're not right or wrong questions. So I don't know. But what they've done over the years is they've tested people who are in prison, people who are murderers, people who are highly successful in business and all these different things, really moral and immoral people. And the questions may have been originally designed to see, well, is this person this or is this person that? But over the decades and decades that this test has been out there, they basically have evaluated which people who are murderers, which questions do murderers answer which way? And so they've been able to categorize it like that rather than, so at this point, it's almost like the presupposition of the test originator has, I think, over the time, almost been removed.
Right, because the test filters those people by itself.
The people filter the test. The people are filtering the questions. People who are of a certain character traits, have certain character traits and personality styles, they answer the questions this way. People who behave this way consistently answer the questions this way. And so they've been able to, it's almost like reverse engineering the test. The test was designed in a certain way, but then over the decades and decades, I think it was originally done in the 40s or 50s. I'm not sure, maybe even earlier. It's half a century at least that it's been out there and evaluated. So you don't get to give everybody an MMPI, but kind of like the test, it's through growing, maturing, getting to know a lot of different people, paying attention to how they behave. When you recognize that somebody has weak character, do you automatically dispose of them? If their character is not strong, do you go, bad character, done with that person? Is that a right way? Is that a healthy way to deal with folks?
That's a good question. Part of me wants to say yes, because you become like the people that you surround yourself with. So I would want my top 5 friends to be people of strong character who can pull me to a higher standard as well. If they have weak character, they're going to pull me down. And I believe that. And I've seen it in my own life if I'm around people that are a certain way. So I think at least for the people that are the closest to me, I would say yes. Perhaps there's an outer circle, or there's a circle that's outside the inner circle, at least, that I'm not as careful with that. People that I interact in business with, they can believe other things from me, and I can still interact with them on a professional level. People in my church also, they don't all have to be, hopefully they are not all like me. They're not, because that's how the church works.
It would be very boring.
It's a family, so, and even my own family, my brothers are different from me.
Yeah.
And they've made different character choices and decisions. So that's a different level because it's family. And the church is also a different level because there's a familial aspect there, the body of Christ.
So we can love people and associate with people.
Yes.
Because they're the image of God.
Right.
And when we recognize character strengths and character flaws, how's that then going to shape the way that you engage with different people? Or does it? Do you engage with everybody the same?
I like to think I have a baseline that I can treat everybody the same, no matter, depending on how well I know them. I think the more you know someone, the more you can deviate from that standard level of interaction. But if I walk into a party and meet someone new, you pretty much put your best foot forward and you try to keep everything sanitary and clean, and you don't tell them all your backstory. But the more you get to know them, if you'd like to, you can reveal some more of yourself.
So if you recognize that somebody that you love and really care for, because you've got a lot of relationship and a lot of good memories and a lot of good interactions with, but you learn that they're a gossip.
Right.
Is that going to, a gossip, or if they're a slanderer, is that going to make you stop loving them?
It would potentially change a little bit of how I interact. I might be more careful with what I say around them.
But are you going to stop loving them? Doing things for their good.
Yeah.
Desiring their good. Helping them if they have a real need. Spend time talking with them. Interacting, edifying them, building them up according to what their needs are. Is it going to stop you from doing that?
It shouldn't.
Right. It should.
Sometimes it might, if I'm not feeling particularly generous, or not, if my heart is 6 sizes too small, like the Grinch, then it may keep me from doing that, and that's a sin on my part.
Okay. That's the honest answer. Okay. What's the correct answer?
Yeah.
But just
the correct answer is that it shouldn't keep us from loving that person.
Okay. So, and what you just said is actually the point. My character is, when something is uncomfortable for me, am I going to do what's right anyway?
Right.
And I confess, it's not my case a lot of the time. I'll do what feels comfortable, what feels better to me. But then when I reflect on it, and if I'm interacting with you, which you do with me sometimes, I'll say something that I do that, I'll just say, well, I didn't know. Well, you'll hold me accountable and say, well, Randy, how's that line up?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's honest. That's one of the things that we have to do, to find those people in our lives that are willing to hold us accountable. If we are not to judge or condemn a person because of their behavior, but to point out sinful behavior or questionable behavior, not to put them down, diminish them, make them smaller, but to identify how does that line up with biblical truth, rightness, godliness. And then if we can have that conversation, and if it does line up, then yay. If it doesn't, yay, and do it more and more. And where don't I do that right thing? With what people have I not done the right thing? And if I am going, no, actually, I don't talk to that person anymore because
I'm lazy.
I'm lazy. I'm lazy. I'm embarrassed. It's uncomfortable. We had an issue years ago and wipe my hands. It's just too painful to go back.
Yeah.
Okay,
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So how do you know if something is the right thing or not? Because you said, I know what the right thing is, and sometimes I don't do it. But sometimes that's not always clear. So in those cases,
obviously the answer is, does it line up with biblical principles? And that just sounds like too cliche, too Christianese and too cliche, but it actually is the truth.
So apply it to something like, oh, I haven't talked to this person in 20 years.
Oh.
And it's...
Okay. So if you haven't talked to that person, okay, in counseling, I'd say, so how do you feel about not talking to that person in 20 years? Role play.
Yeah. Well, we just never really made the effort to reach out. So, I mean, the phone works two ways, I guess. He didn't care enough about me either.
So how does that line up with, how much relationship did you have 20 years ago?
Well, we were business partners and we spent a lot of time together. So we're pretty good friends.
Did you do things outside of just business, or was it
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you feel close, like trust the person? I mean, you did business, but had to trust them to some level.
Yeah, we had good conversations and it was engaging and interesting, but we did have pretty different personalities and different phases of life too. So it's
Uh-huh.
not plenty of things that didn't line up.
Uh-huh. So, would you know how to get hold of that person today if you wanted to? Could you find them?
Yeah, I mean, we've sent a couple texts back and forth and just nothing ever really comes of it.
Hmm.
I've sent a couple things in the past and not gotten responses, or he
Mhm.
sent things that didn't end up working out.
Um, is the connection you had, was it real? Do you think it was real? Did you really like that person? Did you really connect with that person at a heart level?
And that's hard. That's a hard question for me because I can feel friendly to a lot of people, and I
Uh-huh.
don't know if it always comes back. But I guess this is my point. Phone call. This is my point. It's that it's not necessarily a right or wrong answer.
Well, is that person a human? Okay, no.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that
Yeah.
person a human being?
Yes.
Is that person valuable in God's sight?
Yes.
Are the things that drove you apart, was it because the person was saying, I don't want anything to do with God?
No. I think in this scenario, I'm thinking of a combination of a few different people, so it's not a
Sure.
specific situation,
Right.
but it's a combination between other interests and other things happened in our lives, so we drifted apart,
Mhm.
and coming back together. It's not like I think I could encourage this person or
Mhm.
these people. It's not like they really need a friend who's a Christian right
Mhm.
now, or they need money, or they need advice, or something from me. I can really help them. I
Uh-huh.
can encourage them in some way.
Uh-huh.
It's like, yeah, they're probably doing just fine,
Yeah.
and I'm doing okay. Like
Uh-huh.
maybe they'll be my friend, or maybe we'll just have a coffee and then never see each other again,
Mhm.
like we normally do.
Uh-huh. So, if there is not, okay, so trying to boil down the answer to your question,
Yeah.
if there is not an external cause for the separation, something destructive, something painful that caused it, some offense
Mhm.
that caused it. If it really is simply going different ways, because providentially the other person moved to Spain and you don't get a lot of interaction with Spain at this point in your life, uh, then it would seem to me that biblically you can stay in touch. The Apostle Paul wrote letters to the churches and greeted people, some that he was very close with, some that he wasn't. Um, from a distance, he would admonish people if he heard something going on destructive in their behavior or the way they lived. But he wasn't like up in their grill about it particularly.
Yeah. Right.
Um, I don't know
Makes
if they
sense.
had grills. Uh, so uh, I think that you're maintaining some kind of contact with people that we've had in our lives in the past is a good thing.
Right.
But if both parties are pursuing the Lord and they're being taken to different places, and there's not a lot of natural or um, not much in terms of interweaving of where they're going,
Right.
what they're doing,
Commonalities and
commonality. If those aren't there, then I think there's going to be a natural distancing.
is it biblical, or does it line up with good character to consciously make those connections? Is it like friendly, or inherently like a fruit of the spirit or something that we connect it to.
I think one of the things that we're looking at now is personality.
Okay.
Some people, their combination of their styles of personality are very, very connected.
Right.
Okay. And other people are less connected with the people over time.
Right.
I
a good
tend to
point.
be a person, because of my work, I get deeply connected with a wide variety of people in the present, here and now, because I connect with people in counseling and really care and share parts of my life with them, and they share parts of their lives with me. And I get a lot of relationship that takes place in my work life. There's a friend in particular back in Florida. He was a roommate for a number of years. We both became Christians around the same time, both coming out of unchristian backgrounds, and became Christians, committed Christians. And we were very, very close, did Bible studies, a lot of conversations. My kids knew his kids knew my kids, but we didn't live in the same vicinity anymore. So his kids grew up in a different part of the South Florida community, and I grew up, we were probably 50 miles apart. And we'd get together occasionally, but not often. He was at my wedding. There were a lot of he came out here to Oregon to visit, brought his family. I've been back there, and we visited, and we get together when we get in the same neighborhood. But we now haven't talked for quite a number of years. Sometimes I feel guilty about not contacting him because he's a good friend. And I think like you said, but phone goes both ways. Or
but is that just my personality looking for an excuse so that I don't have to feel guilty?
That could be. And am I listening to the Spirit, or am I listening to guilt?
Yeah.
If my life, am I using my life to be a blessing to the people who've been in my life? Am I making myself available to those people to be a blessing to them? And might those people, if I was in contact, might they be a blessing or an encouragement to me in my Christian walk? There are a couple of other men who are also similar age to me. They were elders in the church, two men that I occasionally stay in touch with. We'll connect once in a while. Usually it's them chasing me down, which I really appreciate. One of them chases me down more than the other, and I get back after a while, and it's a joke. So you finally answered my call. So frankly, I think that I have a selfish, sinful part in my life where I don't maintain those really important relationships. It was a lot harder. I mentioned Paul. It was a lot harder for them to connect. They're writing,
right,
using a quill,
probably more expensive,
much more expensive. Yeah. People had to take it.
Send someone.
Hey, Timothy, would you take this to
walk 100 miles that way until you find the people that
or get on a boat and go back from Rome to.
Yeah, now we're just beep.
Yeah. And so your question is an important question, and it's challenging to. Another part of it is how much of my life is fully consumed now, here where I am. There have been times in my life where there was nothing left of me at the end of my day, and had the two girls at home, and Annette was at home, and
Catherine's our one viewer right now, I'm assuming.
Okay. So in those days, I think it was more legitimate for me to not follow up and stay in touch with people from history.
Well, what I say in response to that is that you're not too busy. It's just that you've chosen to do other things, and that's a valid reason for you, because there are things that are more important than connecting with old friends, family, and some work responsibilities. And that logic, you're saying that, like, how much time do I keep in my day for that kind of thing, or how much space do I leave? And I think that's a better way to phrase it. Just because it's a choice.
It is a choice, but one of the reasons we make the choices we have is how busy we are.
Mm-hmm.
How much is filling my life?
Right.
Okay. And yes, we do have to make choices. But if I said to you, "Hey, Emmett, I want you to stay till 9 o'clock tonight because I want to do. We've got a lot more of these things to do. We got to get better at it.
Yeah.
So let's get going on it." You got choices to make,
Right.
and you could legitimately say, "Randy, I'm too busy for that."
Yeah.
There are more things in my life that are at least as important as this time we're spending together. And that's legit.
Right.
So I don't want to, if busy is just busy doing junk, that's one thing. I can say I would be more guilty if I said I'm too busy for things, because I don't work the number of hours I used to work. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of time in my day that I'm just, I spent 2 hours cleaning out a drawer today. It's like, really?
You want to come over to my house and clean out some of my drawers?
No.
You're too busy.
I need to be. I should be busier doing other things that would help around my house.
Yeah.
That would make it more comfortable for Annette, for my wife, and take care of some of these more of these responsibilities here. It ended up being 2 drawers rather than one, because one was over the other and the things had to get mixed and put in a box. And some of it had to be thrown away. Medications that were like from 8:15.
Oh,
So,
no.
oh my goodness, what are these still doing in here? So, got a little off track, I think, but we have choices and decisions to make. Some of our choices and decisions are between fine, right things.
Mhm.
There are choices and decisions that we make that are between a fine, right thing and a not fine, right thing.
Right. And it sounds like your personality influences which choices float to the surface a little more, like selfishness to spend time on your own things versus, like, for me, it's probably choosing not to stretch myself to do things for other people. Like, I would rather stay home and clean my garage. There's tons of junk and stuff that I could do, but there's church responsibilities, or there's things to do for other people that may even be easier in some ways, physically or mentally or whatever. But it feels different. Like, I don't want to stretch myself to go do that thing. I'd rather be selfish.
Well, okay, but maybe, because you see, if you never clean your garage and it gets like mine used to be, as you remember, if your garage gets like mine used to be, you couldn't walk from one side to the other. You have to go around this way, or then back out that door and come in the other door to get to that side. It was horrible. And I used to make choices, and maybe still do, probably still do, to not do that thing that might be considered selfish, to take care and take dominion over my garage the way I should, to keep it orderly and bring order to this chaotic thing, because over time it took enormous amounts of time
Right.
to navigate around this terribly chaotic thing, and all kinds of stuff that I had saved never got used because I couldn't find it, so I would go buy more and then throw it in the garage.
Right.
There are probably people out there who do that. So there are times to say, I really can't do that because I have this other responsibility that I need to take care of because it is interfering with my life to be able to do the better thing consistently. Now, I think that we have to, and that's part of why when we get married, that's part of why God gave us spouses to help us work through those things, to help us engage in those things. And for those who aren't married, to give us friends, people in the church, people who hold us accountable, say, the church has asked me to do this, this is that, this over here is to this point, and the next 6 weeks I've got this, and this. 6 coming up, and I'm not going to have time after this weekend to do that. This thing came up at the last minute. What are you thinking? How can I work through this?
Right.
Well, okay, look for the biblical principles. Is there somebody else that can do it? What are the consequences of it not getting done? Is it that other people are just not stepping up to the plate? So
that's a good one.
If others won't, do I automatically step up to the plate then?
Right.
If so, then maybe I need to stop stepping up to the plate every time.
Right.
And maybe they'll look a little harder for somebody else. Or maybe they'll call somebody else and say, so-and-so always does this. And we really need somebody to go do this, but that person just can't do it. They've got other things going.
Right.
And so, okay, I'll do it. And maybe they'll do it with a little reluctance. But that's okay, because that's part of everybody growing and becoming a greater part of the body of Christ.
Right. Well, this has been a good conversation. We are at an hour.
Ooh.
So this might be a good time to close up and to talk about what we're doing next and how people can get in touch with us, things like that.
Okay. How can people get in touch with us?
Well, like the Facebook page, follow us on Facebook. If you're seeing this video on Facebook, go to the Living Water Counseling page and you should get alerts when we go live.
Is that livingwatercounseling.us?
Well, that's the website.
Oh,
but if you go to Facebook and search Living Water Counseling, it should be up in the corner of the screen. I don't know if it's up that way or up that way, how this is being viewed. But the page, and not just Randy. If you're friends with Randy, go to the Living Water Counseling page to get updates when we go live. Soon we will be doing an email list. So if you have connected with Randy via email, whether you get an invoice from him or like set an appointment with him, you'll be on the list to get notifications. We need to do that soon. Send people notifications in advance that we're gonna
that we're gonna do this. And then we'll get it sorted out before we go live.
We'll get it figured out. So those are the two main places: Facebook or email. If you want to email Randy, we'll figure that out soon.
And then is it appropriate to send to the website?
Sure. Yeah.
Which is the website. I think the one that's maybe easiest to remember is livingwatercounseling.us. We're kind of expanding, trying to get, we're here in Medford, but we're trying to get a broader reach. And livingwatercounseling.com is used by somebody else, but livingwatercounseling.us I think is easier to remember than the other address.
Right.
So go there. You'll be able to get you'll be able to find my calendar,
Mhm.
where you can get a first time 15-minute consult that is of no cost. You can get
You just need to pay shipping and handling. We'll ship Randy.
There's a calendar on there that you can sign up on, to talk with me on Skype or FaceTime, or on the phone. So you can schedule that. It's really easy to navigate.
Yeah. And for returning clients, they can book a full session and pay on the website as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can also view other videos that we've done together. Some of them are Randy talking, presenting thoughts on certain topics, and we'll collect all the live streams and put them on the site as well.
Are there other things along that connection piece?
Those
How
are the
to
main.
connect and-
Yeah, that's the main for now. Probably make sure to stay in touch on Facebook. That'll probably be where most people will see the videos, find information about you. It's just easy to stay in touch there.
Okay. And let's do a very quick summary of what we talked about. We were addressing the issue of personality and character. A lot of counseling is centered around personality, and you only do the things that are comfortable for your personality. So if you're not comfortable doing it, don't do it. I don't think that's a biblical model. The Bible doesn't talk nearly as much about personality as it does character. Character is being conformed to the image of Christ. The Bible doesn't describe Jesus as an introvert or an extrovert or a feeling or a sensing person. It's just not the way he's described. And most people, you can take personality things and apply them to people in Scripture and kind of try to get sort of a sense of what they were like in terms of the way they were. There are differences between Peter and James, for example, but that's not the differences between people in terms of personality are not the things that God is concerned about shaping and forming. What he's concerned about shaping and forming is our character, so that the way that we reflect God with our wide variety of personalities is so that we reflect him in his holiness, in his truth, in his righteousness, in his goodness, in his creativity, in the ways that we can reflect God. That's what he's shaping, and doing it according to his morals, according to what's set forth in the 10 Commandments, which are summarized in loving God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and loving your neighbor. If we're doing those things, loving, truly, not selfish, but loving others, loving God and others, we can express our personality in an infinite number of ways. Quick summary.
Awesome.
I hope it was useful.
Yeah. Let us know.
Yeah. And make suggestions. All right.
The end?
The end.
Okay.
Hey, how about we pray? Lord, thank you for this time to get together with Emmett, to share this conversation with those who are currently listening and those who will hear this and or see this in the future. And Lord, I pray that you'll guide us in making these more efficient, more effective, and more purposeful for the building of your kingdom. May people be blessed by what we do here. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right. Thanks, everybody.